So the 8A certification is a golden ticket, right? But it's not a golden goose. It's a golden ticket, not a golden goose. In fact, we might call it the 8A certification a gold mine, right? Instead of a golden ticket, it's a gold mine. But you're going to need to sit there and go in there and dig through a bunch of dirt and dig for gold for years to strike it rich, to hit the riches you expect from that gold mine. The 8A certification is that same way. That's why it's a 9-year, not a 9-day program. Right? We don't expect you to have all the success that you want in 9 days. We expect it to be a 9-year journey for your business to get to that stage. In today's training, I want to cover down on 3 different stages of the 8A program as I look at it, right? So stage 1 is before you get the certification and knowing when should you, making that decision of should I get it this year, next year, et cetera. Stage 2 is while you're an 8A small business, maximizing the revenue and the growth of your company, the maturity of your company while you're in the 9-year window of the 8A program. And then stage 3 is planning for graduation. As you graduate, you want to make it happen instead of letting it happen to you. You don't want to just come out and go, well, now what, right? And so I want you to plan for that. And if you read the details in today's event, it's about starting the planning for graduation on day 1. The minute you get your 8A certification, notice you want to start planning for graduation because then you reverse engineer all the steps that you need for the success that you want. The 8A certification, it absolutely can be one of the best things to happen for your small business, right? Done right, you can build a strong legacy business that you and your family, that business will be there for both of you. Or you can build a business that's attractive to buyers who are looking to buy companies like yours when you build them up to a certain stage. Either way, as an 8A company, you can definitely have the success that you want. And that success, I believe, is right in front of you. And it's just, learning a couple of process improvement steps, maybe to go down that path, and you'll start having the success you want. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I teach tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process goes from A to Z, right? If you follow the process, you're going to have predictable and repeatable results. And that's what I want for you. And in particular, as an 8A company, right, you should be able to have those predictable results. Before we get started, do me a favor, help buyers remember who you are. In the chat, in the comments, even if you're watching the replay, put your company name and your core competency. Let others know who you are and what you do. I've been working to bring in buyers, federal buyers, into this community, right? Getting them to come in and say, you want to work with smalls? We've got a whole bunch of smalls right here, hundreds and thousands of small businesses who engage our content and our training every single day. And so buyers are coming in. There might be some in here today. There definitely was 2 or 3 in yesterday. So this idea of letting them know who you are is really important. And you should do it every single time you come to my training. Finally, I wanted to say thank you to our sustaining members. We're not funded by the federal government. We're not funded by large prime contractors. We're self-funded. Sustaining members like you and like me are the ones who make this training possible for small businesses out there. And so I just want to say thank you on their behalf. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and start talking about succeeding as an 8A. And again, just in case you're coming in a little late, I just want to say in this training, we're going to cover the 3 stages. I'm going to talk for a minute about whether you should even get into the 8A today or yet. And then stage 2 is about when you're in it. Stage 3 is about thinking about graduation. So let me begin first with when you should get certified, right? I obviously, if I give you a spoiler on this, I want you to wait as long as possible. Too many people get into the 8A program too early, and it's just not worth it. If you time getting into the 8A program, right, becoming 8A certified, if you time it correctly, and I'm going to give you guidance, my recommendations on how long you should wait. If you time it correctly, then getting certified can be the difference between getting certified at the right time can be the difference between being a $50,000 small business and a $50 million small business. Every single 8A small business that comes into that 9-year program, you should be able to look at this. If you want it, you should be able to look at this and say, I want to build a $50 million company. That's a fantastic goal. Not only is it good for your family, right, and your business, but you're building the community around you. You're serving the federal government. And so I don't look at that as just, hey, I'm a $50 million company, look at all the money I'm getting. But it's this idea of what you could build for your community and the people you can hire, but you're the one leading that effort. So it's really important. But getting in at the right stage is the difference on how successful you will be. More than half of 8A small businesses that get into the get certified 8A win little or no 8A business in their entire 9 years. So more than half win little or no 8A business their entire time. That's just borderline criminal, and it certainly is a waste, right? And it's something that can be changed just by making sure that 8A firms, that you understand this process that can lead to the success. And the first step of the process for the 8A program is knowing when to get in. I'm going to give you some really tough guidelines for when to get in. If it was up to me, I would hold you back as long as possible, because I want to make sure you're as ready as possible to be successful for every single one of the 9 years going forward. So let me throw some stuff out there. I don't have them in any particular order, but I did want to share 5 bullets on what you should be thinking about getting in. So the first thing is, you have to understand, you don't want to get into the 8A program until after you've learned how to sell. This is vital. Selling is fundamental to what we do as business owners, right? And I know we've got a lot of salespeople and other people in here as well, but we need to know how to sell. We need to know how to go to the federal agencies, hear about their needs, their requirements, tie it together with our solutions. This is all selling, and then writing a proposal that's going to win. It is not about just direct awards, right? It's not about walking in and our hands out. It's not about some of that stuff that we hear happens sometimes, where a contracting officer will just turn to an 8A and give them an award. That's not building your business. That's just taking handouts, right? And I'll take handouts all day long, don't get me wrong, but I need to strategically build my business. And the way you do that is understanding, how can you sell what you offer to the government buyer? So you need to learn how to sell, how to get into an agency, how to build relationships and talk to people. That's all selling, right? And so if you get your 8A today, but you don't know how to sell, then you're going to waste years trying to figure out how to sell. And you have this 8A certification that's doing you no good. Same thing with a contract vehicle or anything else. You need to know how to sell. That's fundamental. It's one of the reasons, by the way, I say you should subcontract for your first 3 years. Speaking of first 3 years, the second bullet, as it relates to when you should start or go get certified, is after you have 3 years of experience within one large agency. And I'll talk about that large agency in a minute. But you want to be in one large department or agency. So Homeland Security, HHS, Army, departments at that level that can grow you to a $50 million business. They spend so much that if they spent $50 million with you per year, right, that still wouldn't be a drop in all they spend. So you want to make sure wherever you're going is big enough. We had a guest on yesterday from Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, one little command, no offense, but one little command within all of Navy, and their spend in contracting is $1.9 billion, right? So if you start looking at the entire Navy, it's not unrealistic that you could build a $50 million company, depending on what you sell. But anyway, so you want 3 years of experience and working with an agency that absolutely uses 8As to address the requirements, right? They buy from 8A firms. And the reason I say that is because you're building the relationships, and I'll talk more about this in a second, but you're building relationships with the KOs. You know how to get in. You've got the security clearances. You've got all these things in place through those 3 years that when you get your certification, you're off to the races inside of that agency that you've just built a lot of experience as subcontracting, and maybe even some small business set aside type contracts, et cetera. The third bullet is wait until you hit $3 million, right? $3 million in federal revenue in your core competency. And I'll talk more about that in a second, a clear focused offer. But your core competency is, what do you sell? So if you're a cybersecurity firm, don't be selling everything else like janitorial services and software development or whatever. If you spread it around too much, you're not going to be focused and not that attractive to the buyer, because they'd rather turn to somebody who's got a ton of experience, let's say in cybersecurity. So I put a goal down of $3 million. You're learning how to go get $3 million in revenue from the federal government, whether it's as a prime or a sub. And most of that will come as a subcontractor, which is totally fine, right? But get $3 million. Don't get $250,000 or $500,000 and go, let me go get the 8A, because you haven't figured out how to win. And now you're going to go through those first couple of years, these very precious years, and not know how to go get millions of dollars. So 4, and this goes into it, it's a special thing, but I would not get 8A certified until you have figured out how to meet with and have a relationship and subcontract under other 8A firms that are in their 4th year or beyond, right? So not in their first 3 years, which is fine, but my bullet is about year 4 or beyond. And the reason is because these people can serve as a mentor about what do they wish would have happened when they got certified. What was their first few years like? What can they do with you? And then the other thing is, as you get ready to come in, they're getting ready to graduate, and those are good relationships to have. So make sure you've subcontracted under other 8As in their fourth year. And the fifth one, last bullet on this, on when you should get certified, is after you've built relationships with small businesses, large businesses, and agency buyers, right? This is vital that you have relationships established. So the minute you get your 8A certification, you don't go, what do I do? You go back to these people you have relationships with, KOs at federal agencies, large primes, and other small teaming partners, and go back and say, hey, I told you I was getting the 8A certification. I got it. Plus, I got the past performance and some other stuff. Let's rock and roll on some new opportunities where we can support federal buyers together. So hopefully that makes sense. Do me a favor, throw $50 million, just $50 million, into the chat if you see why it's important to wait as long as you can, because it makes the difference between being a $50,000 company or a $50 million company, right? Or any of the middle part that you want. All right, let me move on to this second part. And I'm cruising along pretty fast. This is going to be a fast-paced training, but hopefully I'll get through all these slides. But this next part I want to talk about, I'm going to combine two topics that I want to talk about because they're fairly similar on the activities. But how do you maximize your wins? And then also, how do you plan for graduation with this ability to have continued success once you're no longer in the 8A program? And so I want to give you tips on that, and I'm going to show you a couple of screens as I go forward. But the first thing is, I talked about this earlier, you want to start on day one, and you want to plan your growth so that you're graduated. The reason you want to plan this out is so that you graduate and you continue to go up. You don't have to grow at 100% at a time or something, but you just want to continue to grow. What you don't want is to graduate and crash like so many 8A firms do. If you go into USA Spending, for example, you can go in and see many firms come up on the 8A program, then crash down, and they're not doing anything else. And it's because we don't know how to sell outside the 8A program. And so you have a plan to graduate. Well, you know, as an 8A participant, that you have to have non-8A wins. And this goes back to the reason I said you need to know how to sell before you even get in. So when you get in, you get as much 8A work as you can, as much direct award, et cetera. But you also know how to get non-8A work. You know how to get subcontracting under smalls and under larges. You know how to go after full and open contracts as you move forward, if it makes sense. And as you're getting closer to your 9 years, you're good at that. So by the time you graduate, you're not going to crash. You're going to continue to grow and be this strong company, or stay this strong company that you just built or you helped build, right? One of the first things you need to pay attention to if you really want to maximize your wins is you need to have a clear, focused offer, a niche, right? The saying is riches are in the niches. There's a reason that saying has been around for hundreds of years. It's because literally, if you want to get rich, you need to niche down. And niching down just means coming down to something specific. For example, I've got a customer who does construction. They niche down to elevators. Of course, they can do other stuff, but the niching down allows them to get in and talk to buyers and get seen. Then they can expand on services. But if they go in and say, we do all this stuff, it gets crazy for them. It's the same thing with somebody who's in the IT services, right? They're niching down on, let's say, zero trust architecture or zero trust, rolling out zero trust in agencies. But once they're in, zero trust leads to all sorts of stuff. It could lead to business process improvement, software development, et cetera. But you need to niche down and have this clear, focused offer because it makes it very easy for everybody else to know what you sell. It's why I tell you in the chat, tell me your focused offer. If I'm not saying your company's example, more often than not, maybe you're using too many words and it just doesn't stick in my head like some of these people like Elevator or SharePoint or Zero Trust. And so I try to look in and learn, and I want you to get good at communicating that. So have a clear, focused offer. The next thing is to maximize your wins, right? You want to target one department. This is what we work on the Business Development Accelerator workshop we have. This is exactly what we teach our customers and help them put in place. Clear, focused offer, and then one target department. You want that target, the agency or the department, to be large enough that you can grow a $50 million firm. I have a friend who's got a $100 million company, $100 million a year, and he's in one agency, not even a department, one agency doing one thing around data. It's possible to grow your company up when you niche down, but we feel this FOMO, right? Oh, I have to go after this or that. It's possible to build a company, a strong company that's going to be a $50 million company in one department. But we're like, oh, what about that department? They've got need. Yes, they do. But if you want to grow, get in here, build the relationships, really know the agency. Target the agencies that actually demonstrate through award that they care about working with 8A firms. Let me share my screen really quick. Just trying to find the right one here. Hopefully this is showing you, and I'm going to try to watch my screen to see if it comes up. But the screen I'm trying to share here is USA Spending. And I just want to show you one basic thing that I did on USA Spending. It's coming up here. But right here, I have 3 filters. It's showing me FY22, so last year, show me anything that was 8A sole sourced or 8A competed. So basically, these are all the 8A awards. Just because an 8A firm wins a contract doesn't mean that's an 8A contract, right? It could be just an 8A company is winning a woman-owned small business or full and open even. So these are the ones where you come in and say, who's awarding? What I want you to see, because I said target agencies or departments that say they care, right? Here you can see, forget about DOD for 1 second, because yes, that's the biggest one, right? But look right here, you can see HHS and Homeland Security and NASA. I never would have thought of NASA until I did this data, right? But NASA is in 3rd place, and I don't see that as big as an agency as DHS or HHS. But from a spending perspective, I don't see the Department of Veterans Affairs on here, for example. So if I was an 8A firm, I wouldn't be anywhere near the VA. And I say that very loosely in there, but I would be looking at HHS and Homeland Security, except if I was able to get into DOD, then I would. Here, I can come down, and all I clicked on was sub-agencies. Now I can see that not just in DOD, but it's the Army that's demonstrating through its awards $3 billion in 2022. The Army, from this data, tells me that they love the 8A companies, and they work with 8A companies because they do sole sources and direct awards, right? I mean, competitive awards. And so that drives me to go in here. And now I can look at the other agencies. I don't want to spend a lot of time in here, but this is the research you should do so that you can see that which agencies would most likely work with you as an 8A. Why work somewhere else? Let me show you one other screen. It's funny, 30 minutes is not a lot of time, but I blow through a lot of information that's really important to share. Okay, I'm going to share this window. I really want you to understand this. I had this conversation with a customer who just started with us this week, and they're in the BD Accelerator workshop, and we were talking about they're in acquisition and being able to support the contracting shop, but there was this concern about some contracting shops. They're hesitant to use contractors working on their stuff, right? Or to bring in contractors. And I said, well, don't work with them. What you want to understand, and what you must understand, is that half, you see on the right-hand side, it's got late majority and laggards. Those are in this example, those are the contracting officers who don't want to have anything to do with 8A firms. But over here, there's innovators, early adopters. What these mean is, like, the Army is an innovator from the data I just looked at. The early adopters, same thing, right? I'm looking for those firms. And so why would I go over, no offense to the VA, right? But why would I go to the VA when my early data tells me that they're laggards on the 8A, working with 8A companies? And it's because mostly they're focused on SDDOs, right? But why would I work with them? I would focus, if I'm an 8A and I got 9 years, I would focus on the Army and HHS and DHS that we were seeing there. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me just make sure I'm bringing myself back here. If that makes sense, by the way, put down focused agency. I really want to make sure that you're tracking on that. And so the whole point of that, though, is don't waste your time with agencies that aren't using 8A and trying to convince them to use 8A. Focus on the companies, the departments that are using 8A firms. All right, the next thing you need to do if you want to be able to maximize your wins and then also plan for graduation with continued success is you need to build strategic relationships out there, right? You need to have strategic relationships with buyers, right? And federal buyers, this is contracting officers, small business professionals, program office. but you need to build relationships with these people. You can't just call in when you got an opportunity, like, hey, what's the details on this? Okay, thanks, I'm out of here. Right? Building that relationship. I was talking about this customer who just started with us this week, and I was asking them, hey, what kind of relationships do you have with different customers you're working with? And she pointed out this one particular group and said, hey, we work with this group more. And the reason I say that they're kind of a strong relationship is because, sometimes we chit chat around coffee as well as talk about business, right? They're not going out for beers, but they are standing around the water cooler and talking about something. So there's that friendly rapport. Well, that's the relationship, right? That's what we're trying to build. And so you need to build trusted strategic relationships with your buyers as you're going through your time, because even as you graduate, these same people, KOs, program offices, they'll still work with you. You'll still be a small business. You'll still be a proven business, even when you graduate out of small. Large prime contractors, right? You want to build relationships. If you want to sit there and maximize your win, and in particular graduate out of 8A, find 8 large companies, $1 billion plus, right? 8 large prime contractors. As you're in your 8A window, find 8 large prime contractors and build strategic relationships with them. They definitely have to work with small businesses. They definitely have to work with 8A firms. They don't have to work with yours. But if you build a relationship with them, if you bring them something of value, if you make a point of trying to be committed to that relationship, then that could just be so valuable to you as you go forward in throughout your 9 years, and then even as you graduate. And do the same thing with small businesses, right? Don't ignore small businesses. You've got the other 8A firms, team up with some of them, but there's all these set-asides that are for HubZone, Woman-Owned, and SDVO, right? And then Total Small. Make sure you're building relationships. If you don't know how to build relationships, take the time and learn how to build strategic relationships. That's different than just having, let's say professional friends. Strategic relationships are ones where we meet and we're talking about growth. Remember, I talked about meeting with an 8A firm that's getting ready to graduate in 5 years. Well, you're building a strategic relationship that says they're going to be focused on helping you come into the 8A and grow, and you're going to be focused on helping them having continued success as they graduate out of 8A. Those are strategic relationships when you actually care about the growth of each other's companies. Okay, so I know I'm doing fire hose, but I only got one set of slides left, and I really want to cover this in the last few minutes. I can say it at a high level. You can always reach out if you want to talk to me or just join our workshop. But continuing along this idea of how do you maximize your wins while you're in the 9-year window of the 8A program, and then how do you plan for graduation so that not only do you graduate, but you can have success. And I don't just mean maintaining 8A contracts that are going beyond 9 years, but really having the ability to continue to win other than 8A contracts as you go out. So one of the next important things that you really want to track on throughout the time, and you should start today if you haven't started before, but you want to start building a book of past performances, and I say 40 or more, a book of 40 or more past performances that are related to your core competency, your focused offer. I was talking about one of my customers is cybersecurity, right? In fact, they've got a data security focus. Well, they want to continue to build past performances around cybersecurity and data security and zero trust architecture. They don't want to sit there and get distracted with help desk or network engineering or toilet cleaning or whatever, right? You don't want to get distracted by these other past performances. If you want to be strong and keep winning bigger and bigger contracts, or if you want to keep winning contracts outside of the 8A program, having a strong set of past performances is huge. You're able to demonstrate that you've got experience in increasing size and increasing scope of work that's similar to requirements that might be coming out. You'll have all sorts of relationships. If you stay within a focused department, you'll have all these relationships. For example, I said the Navy, they have 10 major buying commands. If you're able to work with different buying commands, that's really important because these people know each other and you get the past performance or the trust that comes from those past performances. And then larges will love you, right? Larges are looking for companies that have agency intimacy. You have knowledge of the agency. You have experience in the agency. The agency keeps giving you money. That means they must trust you. So I, as a large, will trust you, right? There's a lot of value that comes from having those past performances. You know this. And so the thing you want to pay attention to is get 40 of those. Don't just let opportunities happen to you. Look at this and go, how can I go get more opportunities that are in my sweet spot? And the last thing I want to mention just on how to maximize your win just for today is get 2 mentor protege mentors, right? To work with over 9 years. You can have up to 2, I think, mentor protege programs. And so I would spread them across. If you wait to get in, then you've already started building relationships with a large, potentially, or a large small, or recently graduated small business to large. But having that relationship, having a mentor early on that can help you start growing with some of your back office stuff. You can learn from them. Certifications, they can help you with the certifications. There's a lot to be said, especially with the SBA's mentor protege program, that you can have. Because you can have 2 of them, you can use them to really get into other contracts, larger contracts. Even if you're working with large businesses, you literally can be part of $100 million or $1 billion contract, right? I work with people often who go after work that's in the multi-billion-dollar contract size. And so when you're a trusted small to a large, you will get invited into that party. And so if you can find mentor proteges, mentors who are in that space, that will go a long way to help you maximize your win while you're in the program, and to help you as you continue and you come out, because you'll still be a small business and the largest still would want to work with you. So we're cruising through a lot. Being an 8A small business, it is a golden ticket, right? But it's a gold mine, like I mentioned. And so don't get that ticket, though. Don't go buy that mine before you're ready to maximize the value through your knowledge and the experience, the past performances that'll come. Whatever year you're in, stop for a second. Next week, make a plan, right? I'm working with a customer now who's in their 6th year, and the focus is non-8A work. Well, it's doable. But it's easier for you if you start earlier. We'll help them succeed. But for you, the earlier you start and you put a plan in place, the better it'll be. If your company is struggling to start and build relationships with federal agencies or teaming partners, consider joining my 90-day BD Accelerator workshop, especially if you're an 8A looking to maximize your 8A participation or hit your goals. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're interested in learning more. And remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.